for some help in these positions. So thank you very much. Yeah.
Judy, Marty over here. I'd be willing to work on education.
Oh, Marty! Yay! Woo-hoo! Thank you. That's just marvelous. Thank you.
Thank you. Under the umbrella of the leadership team are the Pastoral Relations and Staff Support Committee and Personnel Committee and the Long Range Planning Committee. Leadership is currently seeking one church member to replace Dick Protzman, who was on the Personnel Committee, to join Amy Hayes and Linda Howland, and I believe it's Steve Carlson. So we need to fill that job. It would be ideal if there was somebody that's got some HR experience, or if you know somebody that's got some HR background in the church, let us know and we'll get them in hammerlock. I now call upon Joe Lyman to report for the administrative ministry. Joe?
Good morning. I'm sorry if I'm a little hoarse. I've been doing a lot of soccer and lacrosse games yelling today, so. The admin ministry is responsible for use, care, and maintenance of the church. So a few things we have accomplished this year so far to date are purchase a new lawnmower. I'm not sure if a lot of you know, but our old one kind of was on its last leg, so a new one got purchased this spring. We replaced most of the light bulbs if it's a little bit brighter in here over the last couple months. We still have a few more left to do this in the middle aisles with the high ones here, but we are trying to go more 21st century and go LED, so it saves us a lot of energy. If you want a little fun fact about it, I'm not sure if a lot of you care about electricity at all, but just in this sanctuary alone, we have about 24 kilowatts that we used before, and now we're going to be down to about 6 kilowatts. So hopefully that'll save the church about $150 to $200 a month just in electricity and demand charges and stuff along those lines. So hopefully we can do the rest of the church and that'll save some monies down the road. Some of our goals this year, we're trying to form and maintain a capital improvement fund to help fund future needs for HVAC, parking lots, anything else that comes up in the future. Another one of our goals is the parking lots for crack filling and lot repair. As you can see, there's quite a few cracks getting larger every year, and we need to take and maintain that. Like I said, we replaced a lot of the light bulbs, but one of our other goals is to complete an energy audit and try to go more 21st century as much as we can with more efficient stuff in the church. And then other ongoing maintenance items are just fixing some of the siding and come up with a plan for researching the parking lot, light poles, the entrance, and adding power to the outdoor sanctuary. That's about it, unless there's some questions or needs or.
Oh, this is easy.
I like it.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks, Joe. Under the umbrella of the administrative ministry is the budget committee, the landscaping committee, and the various fundraising projects such as Craft Fest, the rummage sale, the golf outing, Godstock, and this year, the car and cycle show. Does anybody wish to report on from any of these groups? Anything about the car show? Sorry? Typing and running, this multitasking stuff.
I'm very excited to share about the car show. Apparently we roughly have 75 cars, so that is awesome. We have a few sponsors. Ewald has sponsored. We have Silberman's, who is sponsoring all of our food. And then I have 2 Kohl's grants that are coming. And in the month of June, Kohl's has increased the grant to be doubled. So typically it's 5 Kohl's associates work for 3 hours. we get $500. Well, they're upping it to $1,000, so that's really exciting. And then there is a sign up. Joe will be sending that in our email this week so that you can sign up electronically, or in the back there is the paper copies, and I'm just taking those and putting you into the sign up so that you get a Google email reminder of what you have signed up for. So if you have any raffle baskets that you would like to donate, we're still accepting those, so any help would be greatly appreciated. All of the funds are going towards the youth mission. Rich would have an experience that he would pay for whenever we would go on a youth mission trip. So we want to keep that happening for years to come. Every mission trip, there will be some kind of a fun experience that will come from this memorial fund. So thank you.
Thank you, Rochelle. George, did you want to say anything about golf, or are we good? Okay, we're good. Faith?
The donations for the car show, where are we to bring them and when, where to put them?
In the office. You can bring them in the office.
Okay.
Whenever.
When do you
Sorry.
want them?
Huh?
When do you want them, like the Gatorade and all that stuff?
We need them the week before, or that week, by that week. When donations, that week, yeah. Yeah, we'll need them the week of, at the latest, by Wednesday. What is that, the 16th, 15th, 13th? Sorry. Thank you.
Any other questions? Way in the back, Pam. Wait one sec.
Just to put a plug in, there are posters to be distributed that are out on the table, and we would like to have those go out as soon as possible. Thank you.
Okay. Anything else? Okay. I now call upon Katie Stevens to report for the Education Ministry.
Thank you. Okay. Hi, everyone. Education Committee has ongoing goals. We work with the children as much as we can, and the projects that we do continue every year. We are responsible for the Sunday school program, nursery care, the youth groups, confirmation class, vacation Bible school, graduation, young adult care packages, Christmas pageant, along with other adult programs that we've come up with throughout time to enhance your knowledge of the Christian church. I think that they have been, they being that wonderful team that Marty has just joined, under the leadership of Amy for the most part, and Pastor Dave, I think that they have continued to do an outstanding job, and it's hard to pinpoint a specific goal. What we want to do is make sure that the children are educated. We have been very fortunate in recruiting Sunday school teachers that are willing to do that. They step up and they nurture our children. The youth groups are an integral part of our church programs. It recruits families, it encourages fellowship amongst the families, not just amongst the children. They can bring their friends. And so as a parent, that was one of the things that drew us to the church in the first place. Our kids could go and they invite other kids, and it was always a good experience for them. So again, though, it's very volunteer heavy. So that's one of the challenges that the education ministry in particular continues to meet, is the volunteer drain on our congregation. So any help that you have is always wonderful. The confirmation program we had is back full gear. We had a good year this year. Amy, how many did you have? How many confirmands this year?
11.
11. And how many do we have expecting next year? 14. And so, again, an excellent program. We've had wonderful, wonderful support, and I thank you for that. Obviously, the way that Amy interacted with her youth this morning shows that we've got the right people in place at this point in time. Vacation Bible School is something that takes place every year. We look at different programs, what kind of curriculum, what do you want to do, because the kids want to come and have fun, but we also want to make sure that they're learning something about education or Christian life while they're here. So it's a program that works well every year. We shift it a little bit. We hopefully will have a good turnout and good weather so that the kids can play outside. Again, lots of volunteers needed. Graduation Sunday, we just celebrated today. We hand out little prizes. The young adult care packages is something that we're continuing to do. In the spring, we send out just a card, it was this year. We sign it and close a little note to all youth up to, not just the ones that are just in college, but all young adults that are out of town. And what?
5 years.
5 years.
Yeah.
5 years out. Oh, 5 years out. So it encourages them to remember their roots, where they came from. We still love them. We still care about you. Please come to church. In the fall, we send out one with little prizes and kitsch things to their homes to just remind them that we care. The Christmas pageant, we've all enjoyed that for years. We're fortunate to have the people in place that run that. And I think we're on board for that again next year, the same people. So we can look forward to another really good program. So those are programs that have been in place for years. They will continue to be in place. We reevaluate the curriculum as needed and decide whether or not we want to shift things. We look at the age combination of the Sunday school classes to determine what we have. Is that the best way to group the children so that they get the most out of their experience here? The adult education program is always something that we try very hard to work with, and of course Pastor Dave has come up with a lot of good things for that. The UCC for Dummies is an excellent thing. That's something that we look for ideas maybe from the congregation. It's hard for us to know what things you might be interested in. So if anybody has any ideas of a program that they would like us to present, we're open to hearing it, and we'll see if we can put that together. They've done a couple of different book studies, and they were well received. We approached it a little differently, where it wasn't every week. Pastor Dave has his regular Bible study classes. We changed the Lent studies this year because it's difficult for people to come on a regular basis, so we had a lectionary or a reading that we offered to people instead. We did an Advent study this last fall. It was a small group, but I think that we enjoyed ourselves, and I heard that we were hoping to have it again. So I don't know if we'll do it exactly that same way or if we'll shift gears. So it's an ongoing thing. It's a labor of love, trying to spread the word. Any questions?
Thank you.
Okay. Wow. Welcome.
I now call on Peg McCollum to report for welcoming ministry.
I don't have a wonderful thing up here. I just have what I have in my hand, so I apologize for that. The Welcoming Committee's mission is to encourage Christian fellowship and hospitality toward and among our church members, friends of the church, visitors, and newcomers. We have 8 members, plus Pastor Dave, and Fred is kind enough to come and join us. And we probably have 3 new members, church members on our committee this year. And one of them even knows how to use the dishwasher. We had a new member brunch on April 15th, which, as you might remember, featured quite a snowstorm. It was well attended despite the weather, and it was great to hear feedback about the church from the new members. We provided snacks and water for the soccer participants. Next Sunday, we will be feeding the members of the Batoto group. We have quite a few committee members who have previous commitments, so a couple of extra volunteers would be welcome. We'll be providing 10 bag lunches for the people who will be packing up after the show, and then we'll be feeding 25 youngsters following about 11 o'clock that morning. This summer, we have a booth at the Farmers Market in Oconomowoc once Saturday in July and a second Saturday in August. The purpose of this group is to provide information about our church to the public, and we will also be strongly promoting Godstock. And I think this is true, but I don't know for sure. In August, I think we're going to host a church picnic, but I'm not sure about that yet. And Pat Evans is kind enough to help this group to implement a goal on becoming a welcoming church as outlined by the UCC conference. I want to thank the members of the Welcoming Committee for their willingness to volunteer when I've asked for help. They have been absolutely wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you, Peg. Is there someone from Mission Ministry that can report? We got a pinch hitter.
I'll report for Mission today. It's an amazing group that we have installed in those positions there. Their goals for this year, as you know, Rich Bailing was in charge of the Habitat for Humanity. So we will be working with Rochelle and maybe some other people to reestablish our working relationship with Habitat again. So we're hoping to implement it this year, if not by next year, but we will have that up and going again as an opportunity for all of you. They will also be continuing to work with Cindy Meckel and Deb Berzinger with Family Promise and to host 4 times a year. They would also like to add more community-based projects for the Mission Ministry by increasing the awareness. The first Sunday of every month is Food Pantry. So please bring in your food donations, and we will try to encourage that a lot more among the whole congregation to make that well-rounded as well. They will continue to offer their monthly singing collections and offer and fundraise a youth mission trip every summer. And also, last year there was a young adult mission trip in January, and it was so well received, and the group that went had such a great time. So we don't want to be forgetting about our young adults as they're off in college or off working hard. We want to give them an opportunity to go and serve as well. So we will be implementing that. And it's also all for all adults. I mean, you don't have to be in college or a young adult to do these, so all of you are more than welcome to attend this too. So we'll be working on that and getting that coordinated soon. And also, the summer mission trip is not supported by the church budget. It is solely ran on all donations and fundraisers. So the Mission Ministry has agreed to offer a singing collection to go towards the mission trip to help decrease that out-of-pocket expense. We want to make those trips affordable for every youth and their family to attend those. The stuff that happens on those trips is life-changing. That group up here, they have gone on every single mission trip with me, and they are so close because of that. So these mission trips are crucial to our youth and to our church life here. So please support it and help us. If you have any suggestions or ideas of what we can do, please let us know. And that's all we have. Thanks.
Thanks, Amy.
We got a question.
Sorry.
Trudy Maris, I just wanted to ask how the results came through for the Jam for Jam. There was an effort. Katie, can...
Yes. I really appreciate you guys all supporting this Jam for Jam thing. My boys are a result of this church, are a result of the mission trips, and have gone on every year that they were during the high school years. They make their journey to Jamaica in January. It is not a safe enough environment to have a church group go. They had their annual Jam for Jamaica music festival in the middle of May, and it was very well received. Last year it was a total flop because of the weather. This year they did a good job, or they had a lot of good time, they had a lot of good weather, and they made a lot of money. So next year, when they go in January, they should be able to build a number of houses. And there's also been some additional support from our church family, which we're very grateful for. Thank you.
Thank you. I now call on Tim Schuyler to report for Spirituality Ministry. I'm sorry.
Good morning, everyone. Ann Stoltz is our chair, and she's actually traveling to attend some family graduations. I think she asked me to do this, and I got a mental block on it, so I'm not well prepared today, so you have to forgive me. The spirituality ministry continues to look at ways to enhance the services that we provide to the congregation. Some of the things we've done is we've used some questionnaires. We have some project or steering committees that help look at the services we're providing, what we can do to make those better. And when we ask for your feedback, it is much appreciated. I think we've been doing well when it comes to the volunteers helping support the service, whether it be from ushers or waking up the church, helping with communion, things of that nature. The one area that we do struggle with and continue to struggle with is the audiovisual area. We do need volunteers to help run the audiovisual part. So if anyone is looking to be educated and trained to do that, we'd be more than happy to take you. If you have high school age kids who are very tech savvy, those are always good ones to get involved in a church and a way to maintain them in participating in the service. So if you have a desire or know someone that might be good with audiovisuals, please let us know and we can get them helping. On June 10th, once again, an effort to enhance our services, it's been mentioned Watutu is coming. They'll be performing at our service on June 10th. We still are in need of 3 host families to take in one of the performing children, I think, and their sponsor or escort. Part of that is providing dinner for them that evening and breakfast the next morning.
Just breakfast.
Just breakfast the next morning, I'm sorry. But if you are so inclined and have the space and are willing to take in a couple of the children that are coming, we do need 3 host families yet. I think that's all that I have. Once again, for my lack of preparedness, I think we have a question though in the back.
Rochelle, it's Lynn. Tim, I have a question. The survey that was done a few weeks ago about the timing for the first service, has there been any decision made about that?
No, so what's being referred to is we did a survey. At one point, there was some people that had asked about the time of first service. If you go back, it used to be at 8 o'clock. It was moved to 8:30, and the design of that was to have a joint fellowship hour between the 2 services, and that really never took off. We also had Sunday school services at first and second service. That's how far back that goes. So some people had approached about moving the service back to 8 o'clock. So we did conduct a survey for the 8 o'clock service. Our next meeting for spirituality is actually this Tuesday, so we haven't had a chance to discuss it. But I will say that the majority, and is it okay if I share numbers? Okay, 75% voted to remain at 8:30. So, but that once again, just asking for feedback from the congregation, and that's one of the things that we did was conduct a survey. And I appreciate everyone that participated in it. But the spirituality ministry will discuss the results formally at our meeting on Tuesday. So, any other questions? Yes, Linda.
I know volunteers are hard to find because I have been on that side of things for a long time. But I would really appreciate if we could find, even if it's every other week, to have some greeters when you come in church to the early service. Most times we don't. Sometimes we do. But today we didn't have anybody. I don't think it looks good if visitors come to our church.
Yes.
There were 2 of us.
Okay.
There were greeters there, Linda, but you got there about 5 minutes before the greeters did.
So I think it was timing this morning.
Yep.
Any other questions? All right, thank you very much.
Thank you, Tim. Under spirituality, Tim, is that the choosing of the bread we use in communion?
It is.
That was really good today.
We will.
Thank you.
Just so everyone's aware, we did listen. We have been trying different breads, and so for, I believe, the past 3 communions, we've had different breads, other than the one that we had started with. They're all gluten-free, all right? And I think it's been well received. It comes down to the brand, just like anything. Some people might like one brand versus another, but I think that we've been doing a good job of finding ones that that meet the needs.
Today was a winner.
Today was a winner. All right, I'll make sure that Carrie knows that. So, but thank you very much.
Thanks, Tim.
Tim, I do have a comment.
Yes.
Do I have to have a microphone?
Oh, we need a microphone.
Bob, the mic up here.
Or I could just talk to you afterwards.
Oh, wow. Bob's almost here.
Lois Jackson for Rochelle. On Easter, I attended a UCC church up in Elkhart Lake. And for communion, what they did in the tray, they had a separate little basket right in the middle that had the gluten-free bread. And then the things around the outside were just regular bread that they had gotten. And in the one for the wines, they had real wine in the middle of the tray also, and then the grape juice around the outside. So it was just something I'd never seen before.
Alrighty. Sorry, should be more formal. Well done, thank you. I now call upon Bonnie Lagerman to report for stewardship ministry.
Thank you, Fred. I'm chairing the Ministry for Stewardship this year, and this is a new experience for me, and I'm following in tremendous footsteps. Fred led us last year, and Gordon behind, and I couldn't follow better people to learn the new ropes of leading this particular group. I have to thank Michael Higbee for reaching out to me for nominating, because I said I didn't want to do anything that I'd be asking people for money. And he said, well, it's more than money. And I said, okay, so this was a learning year last year, and really the Ministry of Stewardship is to assist all of us to dig deep, to look at how we can contribute our time, our talents, and our possessions to further the mission of this church. So with that in mind, that has been helpful to keep me focused on leading our team. But according to Trudy, we are in need, yes, we are in need of 2 more members. Tom Stone is new this year, as well as Sue Maloney, 2 really nice additions to the group, and Glenn Wellnut continues, but we do have a need. And I do want to share with you, this is a nice committee. We don't start until April. We're pretty much done in November. And I have good footsteps to follow. So I'd like to encourage anybody to join us. We will meet again on June 13th. We've only had 2 meetings. And our goals that we did submit, I guess they're not up on the screen, but I'll read them to you, is to increase the participation of members by 5%, to give up their time and talents, and to actively engage them in doing so. Last year, under the leadership of Fred, we reorganized the pledge, which we called our promise sheet, to encourage people to list areas of interest for all of the ministries and the project groups. That has been most helpful in really increasing participation in all of our groups. And I was pleased to be asked by Carrie Hack to join the communion group today, which I had signed up for, that I at least learned that somebody saw that I signed up and in fact reached out and included me. And so our hope is to make sure that we do that as we move forward. The second one is our goal is to meet or slightly increase the pledged budgetary goal of $330,000. We exceeded our budget goal last year of $318,000, so we want to at least meet the goal of $330,000, and then to recognize the folks that do so. Sometimes we take for granted people give their promise of their money and then forget to tell them thank you very much for doing so.
And then the last goal that we are going to work on is to support and assist in promoting the work of the newly formed Legacy Committee, and you'll hear more of that from Gordon. Gordon has been very committed to reworking some of the areas that are part of stewardship, and that's the Memorial Fund and the Endowment Fund, and to form it into a new way of doing our work. So our Stewardship Committee would support that team. So we will be meeting again on June 13th at 6 o'clock. It's a Thursday. And we will then be deciding on our theme. Right now we haven't received direction from the national office on our theme, so we might have to come up with our own. And then set our schedule from now until November 11th, which will be Stewardship Sunday. So if anybody wishes to join our team, Trudy, I take volunteers. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Bonnie. As Bonnie mentioned, under the umbrella of the Stewardship Ministry is the Memorial Fund Committee and Planned Giving. I now call on Gordon Pierce to present a proposed change to Article 10, Part B, Paragraph 6 of our Constitution regarding the organizational structure.
Here's your opportunity to help us achieve our goal from last year. So we've been talking about the two committees under the stewardship, or what do they call their project groups, I think. They're the Planned Giving Committee and the Memorial Fund Committee, and they've been around for a really long time, and they've been inactive for probably as long as I've been on the committee or before that. And so our goal a few years ago was to reactivate those, and then the person, Cindy Kunkel, was working on that, but then she moved to Arizona. So last year's goal was to redo that. So we took a hard look at that, and we came up with after we looked at the two committees, we found out there was a lot of similarities. They both are dealing with legacies. One would be like the Memorial Fund, and the other was the Planned Giving, which is an endowment. And so we got together a group of volunteers, which is Bob Johnson, Dan Wiley, Barb Buer, myself, and then Bonnie Lagerman is a liaison from the stewardship. And it's a really helpful and very diverse group of people that bring different skills. So we've been meeting, and so the first thing we tried to do was both those committees in the Constitution, a little bit confusing how they worked, or if this is a memorial, or if this should go into endowment. And the endowment fund has been around for a little while, but there's been some confusion in the direction of that. So we're trying to get that all kind of reorganized. And what we'd like to do is, our proposal is to combine those two groups into one committee called the Legacy Committee. And so you would have received something here today about the proposed constitutional changes. And it looks a lot to it, but there's not so much to it. The Stewardship Committee is responsible for overseeing us. So the only change in the Stewardship Committee is changing a little bit of the wording there, that now it's the Legacy Committee. The other two, so Article 10, 6 and 7 are totally deleted. That would be the Memorial Fund Committee and the Planned Giving Committee. And then in the red on the back side, you see what the Legacy Committee is. And basically, paragraph 1 is the Planned Giving Committee, and paragraph 2 is the Memorial Fund Committee. So it just kind of reworded and reorganized. And so, so that's the proposal, is to not have quite so many committees, and just kind of consolidate everything and try to get a better handle on this, and be able to promote this. So we'll be doing flyers probably this fall to promote the endowment fund. Bob Johnson oversees the endowment fund. He's done a great job with it, but a lot of us don't know much about it. And we want to kind of educate people on how you can help leave a legacy in the future, and also follow up on the memorial funds. So is there any questions? Okay, I'll let Fred take over the politics of how this is done.
Thank you. Can't find my notes here. So basically, since this is a proposed change to the Constitution, combining those two endowment committee and into one, it requires a motion from the floor that we proceed and form a legacy committee. So I would entertain that motion.
I so moved.
And your name, ma'am?
Lois Jackson.
Okay, Lois Jackson has moved. Is there a second? Second, Dale Vercateran. Is there any discussion? If not, I would entertain a vote. All in favor signify by saying aye. 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 Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Under the umbrella of the Welcoming Ministry is the Caring Connection Committee. Is there anyone from this group that would like to say anything about Caring Connection? We're good. Under our Constitution and bylaws, 2 auxiliary organizations have been established. They are Hearts and Hands Preschool and Memorial Gardens Association. Does anyone wish to say something about either of those? Looks like we have a volunteer.
Quick, just quick.
Okay.
Quick. Good morning, I'm Cindy Meckel. I'm the director of preschool. Just a few announcements. We ended last week, was it last week, 2 weeks ago? And it is 11 years total that our staff has been together. Deb, stand up. And then, so Deb Schuyler and I, Jean Stocker and Teresa Schmeling, have now worked together for 11 years. And if you know childcare, and if you know daycare, and if you know preschool, that does not happen. And so that just speaks to the support that this church gives, the environment that we have set, and we are very, very blessed to have the preschool that we have. And so I thank you for that. So we're planning on the new year. We still have spots for fall, so spread the word. And then one thing that we have done this year, which is kind of fun, is I sat down with Amy Drua and we're trying to get our Facebook pages to talk to each other. And so I've done that. So hopefully, if you've liked First Congregational, you see some of the Hearts and Hands stuff. And if you like Hearts and Hands, you see some of the church stuff to try and get us to kind of advertise and market together. So if you've already liked church, please like preschool. If you've already liked preschool, please like church, so that we can get the word out a little bit better. And so that has been kind of fun to share posts. We're trying to advertise to our preschool parents a little more stuff that's going on in church and vice versa. And so that's been kind of a big deal for us this year. Any questions on that? Michael.
Hi, Mike Higby. I just had a question about enrollment.
Yeah.
How is it compared to last year? How does it look over?
We are like 1 or 2 behind last year and 3 or 4 ahead of the year before. So we're doing good, but there's always room for more. One thing I like about our preschool is there's always room for more. We'd love to be full, but I hate turning people away. But yeah, enrollment numbers look good, but we can always use more.
I guess what I was getting at, are you at capacity or?
No, we have room.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Just concerned that way.
Yes. We are not, a few years ago, we were hugely concerned about our enrollment. I am not hugely concerned. God sends us the best people every year, and it always does. So thank you, Mike. Any other questions? All right, just a quick plug for Family Promise then. Family Promise is coming June 24th to July 1st, and we still need volunteers. Usually I'm a huge volunteer for it, but I will be driving my daughter out to Maine to go to med school, and so I will not be there for that week. So my challenge for the church is to take one more spot than you usually do to cover what I do. So I would really appreciate that. Any questions about that? Linda?
I have a request about Hearts and Hands.
Oh, yep. Amy's coming.
I was going to ask if you would, in the monthly newsletters, if you would put down what you need for the Hearts and Hands.
Typically, we have our wish list in there. It was funny because the parents asked me this year what we needed, like for a year-end gift, and
we are so blessed I couldn't come up with anything. And she said, all right, when my daughter finally, my little one finally comes, we're gonna be buying gas cards for the teachers because you guys are so well equipped. Like, we're blessed. So thank you. But we do, if there is a need, we do usually put it in the monthly newsletter. So thank you.
Thank you, Cindy. George?
Just a quick update regarding the Memorial Garden. First of all, maybe you have noticed it, maybe you haven't, but we do have a new sign in the upper parking lot in the back corner there, which now acknowledges the existence of both the outdoor worship area, which has been there for a long time, but also now the Memorial Garden. So take a look at that new sign on your way out as you're driving, if you're parked up above, or if you're parked down below, take a little detour and check out the sign. And secondly, we're going to be building a third wall this summer. We have about 4 spots remaining on the existing 2 walls that we built about 5 years ago. But we're going to build a third wall, and come take a look at the garden if you have a moment. It's looking great. It looks good. It's a great place to remember your loved ones. It's a great place to have a good sit down and smell the roses.
How many spaces will there be total then, George?
How many spaces will there be in total with all 3 walls, or what do you mean?
Right.
Oh boy. Boy, off the top of my head, 2, 4, 6, 8, 16. 16 times 3 is 48, but I imagine there's about, because some of those are big stones, probably about 44, 43 stones, plots in total. But we have, keep in mind too, we have the footings in place for 4 additional walls. Those footings were put in when the first 2 walls were built. So now we're going to build on top of the footing for the 3rd wall, which will still leave us 3 more walls to be built over time as the demand calls for it. Does that make, am I clear? Did I answer your question? Okay, any other questions? Trudy?
Just point out that we are not only a beautiful place to rest our, beautiful place to rest our loved ones, but just, it's so much more inexpensive than any place else. So keep that in mind for families who are looking to bury their loved ones.
Just in case you weren't aware of it, and just to cover that base quickly, the current pricing on the Memorial Garden for a plot for up to 4 burials on that stone is a cost of $2,000. We've done some competitive price shopping in the area, and we've come to realize that that's a very attractive price, especially when you consider the minimal costs involved in the services themselves. So it's not only a nice place, but it's also an economical place. So, any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you, George. Oh, we have a question.
Lois Jackson. Mr. Moderator, do we have to do anything formally to remove neighborhood group leaders from our bylaws or constitution? They no longer exist.
I think they are removed from the Constitution.
Are they?
I believe so.
The last thing I looked at was still there.
Okay, if not, we probably just need to retype it, but I think they've been removed. We'll get it taken care of if they're still there. A signed project group was formed after it was suggested at our last annual meeting that a digital design is desired. I now call on Jim Zajac and the sign team project group to tell us what's going on.
Morning.
It's not often that the church comes up with a major expense for a project. The last one I can recall was the garage and back. We raised $24,000 outside of the budget, and the members of the church actually built the garage. What's a miracle is that it's still standing. And by the way, all the people who built it are still got all their fingers. Anyway, this was a project that started after we determined that the sign that's out there is not in good shape and needed a lot of work. I don't know if all of you read the email blast that went out. And if you didn't read it or didn't have it, George has some copies of it. So I'm not going to try and get into all the details of it, but the sign is something that needed to be addressed. We looked at repairing the existing sign, and it didn't make a lot of sense. So we went ahead and we looked at actually 3 different companies that make signs for churches. 2 of them presented projects here, and we made probably several meetings deciding what to do and how it should look. We wanted it to relate to our church, and that's the reason for the bell you saw up here a few Sundays ago, and it's back in Fellowship Hall now. I guess I'm going to say, do you have any questions at all about the project? Anybody? Cindy?
I just have a real, that's loud, a real selfish question. On the last sign, Hearts and Hands Preschool was on it. On this sign, I don't see that.
I didn't hear that, I'm sorry.
On the last sign, Hearts and Hands Preschool was advertised. On the new sign, I don't see Hearts and Hands anywhere. And again,
Yeah,
selfish question.
Yes. Here's an interesting thing that we were talking about this, or I was talking about to a few people this week, and that is each committee will be able to put notices on that sign. That would include the Hearts and Hands or any other group. It would probably be messages on the sign would have to probably be directed through Pastor Dave. And remember, we can change this every 30 seconds. So it's something that we can advertise several different things that, throughout the day, all the time. So Hearts and Hands would be one of them. Remember, if those of you who have ever tried to carry some of those sandwich boards out there, it's a project. They're heavy, they're falling apart, they need a lot of work. This will replace it. Now the sign's going to be put more toward the middle of the property so that it'll have a better view from both angles. There was some question that came up about a tree on the far side that would block part of the view. It will block a little bit of it. No matter where we put the sign, you're going to have interference. If we move it more, I'm going to say in this direction, we run into a problem with the pine trees over here. We would literally have to take those down. The other thing too is the city is extremely restrictive on what we could do with the sign and where we can put it. It's got to be a certain distance from the road. It's got to be a certain distance from people's property. It only can be so bright. It can only be so high. You can only have a message every 30 seconds. You can only use 2 colors. I mean, it goes on and on and on and on. There's page after page of restrictions as to what we can do. We have temporary approval to put the sign in. We're waiting for a plan, a planting. Believe it or not, they want to know what plants are we going to put in next to it. That's how restricted. And right now, we do not have a permit because we have to tell the city what plants we're going to put in there into this little berm around it. So it's a difficult thing to work with the city, as you can well imagine. We've done that. Pastor Dave and Dave here has spent a lot of time working with the city and getting it together. Tomorrow in the afternoon, we're going to have somebody out here to do a planting and then present that to the city so that we can finally get approval. Dale here is probably more familiar with the sign and the process for installation and whatever. I'm just overseeing it a little bit, but he's the guy who knows all about these things, and all I know is you plug it in and it works. Just a few things about it, and then I'll answer your questions. It can be programmed remotely, so if Pastor Dave wants to take Sunday off and go play golf, he can put that up there on the sign from his home. I'm trying to think of some of the other things we can do with it, but we have to have a separate power supply brought in. The cost of it is around $30,000. And I think we could raise that. Right now, we are over 15,000 already raised. So we've got a good head start. We cannot do anything as far as ordering the sign until we have the money. So right now, we're just waiting for that. I know there are some commitments out there that haven't come in yet. I hope everybody can contribute whatever you can afford. Questions?
Joan Robbins.
Not working.
Joan. Joan Robbins. I have a question. I feel strongly that we should consider putting Hearts and Hands on there because it's an important entity of the church. And I'm sorry that it's not on there now as we're looking at it. Is there some way that that can be put on? What was the feeling of this? Why wasn't it put?
What it would mean is starting over again. What I mean by that is it's not easy to put something up there. I mean, yeah, we can put a sign on there that says that. The problem is it would not be lit. We're only allowed to have 12.5 square feet. That's the city limit. So if we put something up there that lights up that says Hearts and Hands, that would only give us about maybe 1.5 lines that we could post anything. So we're very, very limited. Like I say, the city is so strict on this. That sign you see up there with the black where it says, God is still speaking, that is 12.5 square feet. So you got to figure that's what, roughly 3 by 4.
What? It's right under First Congregation.
How about under 8:15? Could it be Hearts and Hands under 8:15?
Pardon?
Could Hearts and Hands be under 8:15, the address?
If we do any changes on this right now, we have to start all over from scratch, go back to the city, say we need this change, get a whole new sign permit and everything to do it. Can it be added? It can be added. Just a lot of time and effort.
I think it's something that should be considered because Hearts and Hands has been very important to this church.
Well, Hearts and Hands can be very important to everything. I mean, it can be put on that board. We can have her come up and say, and I'm just teasing you, Pastor David can say soccer, and right after soccer, it can say Hearts and Hands. Then Hearts and Hands can come up and say something. I mean, it can be on there every day.
Part of soccer. I mean, this is.
I was teasing Pastor Dave about his soccer, but it can be on there every day, several times. It can be on there every day. That reader board can be changed constantly, and what'll be a little bit nicer about Hearts and Hands being on the reader board is it's going to come up and catch people's eyes.
Okay, I'd like to finish, if I may.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't know I interrupted you.
I just don't understand why it's not part of First Congregational United Church of Christ, either under it or over to the side, but where the bell is there a room there? I just feel that it's a very important part of this church that is going to be like an afterthought as it comes floating through with some of the other signs. I think it's something that should have been considered. I'm sorry it wasn't presented to us as a whole, perhaps all the designs, and then go from there. But I just think it's something that needs to be thought about. Thank you.
Do you want to, just a minute, stay there, Amy. Are you talking about having it lit?
No.
Just the plaque?
Just to be able to be seen permanently. Thank you. That's the word I wanted, permanently.
Okay,
not scrolling.
If you're not lighting it, that might be...
That's what I'm saying, not lighting it. Just meant to be part of the sign, period.
We'll take a good look at that.
Please.
Yeah, I'd like somebody give us an idea of what you want at our next meeting, and I'll let them know when it's going to be. I'll let Cindy know.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions?
Yeah, Lloyd.
Yes, Lloyd.
Correct me if I'm wrong.
Can't hear you.
Hold on, I'm coming. Just leave this one.
Yeah, Lloyd Crom. Jim, correct me if I'm wrong. I'm envisioning this as we've all seen the billboards, or every so many seconds they change. I'm assuming that this sign would be similar to that. So we could put hearts and hands, and we put wherever we want on the sign, just a rotating basis.
Right.
And I just wanted to make that point.
Yeah, you can have the sermon up there every week. You can have the, the car show being advertised right now for 3 weeks in advance. The same thing with Craft Fest. The same thing with all the events of the church would be up there. We can run it for 30. The minimum time we can run it is every 30 seconds, but you can leave it up there all day, just one.
Yeah, so worship times can be a default for whatever, and we can just change that message constantly.
Yes.
My thought, not to argue with anybody else on it, is it's the first Congregational church sign. The other benefits that the church offers, I don't know that they should be a permanent part of the sign. Thank you.
Another question over here.
Hi, yes, Mike Higby. Just so everybody understands something, this is going to be very rudimentary, but what you're seeing up there where it says God is still speaking, that is a huge video scoreboard like you would see at the Brewers Stadium, okay? And it rotates with color and a message every 30 seconds if you wanted to, okay? Does everybody understand that? So it's not just going to say God is speaking, and it's missing the thing for hearts and hands. We're going to set hearts and hands over here for just a second, and I'm not disagreeing with those of you who want that on there. But you could say God is still speaking. 30 seconds later, Hearts and Hands Christian Preschool. 30 seconds later, car show, June 10th. 16. God is still speaking. Just so everybody understands what we're looking at here, okay? That's a live video board. And so Hearts and Hands would be up there in huge block letters every 30 seconds, or you can flick it on, it can stay on all day. Many, many more options, okay? So I just want everybody to make sure that we know what we're looking at, okay? Fair enough?
Yeah, just so that you look, if you look at underneath at 815, the sign for Hearts and Hands couldn't be more than 1 foot by 2 foot. And that would be the total probably area for the sign. By the time you put the letters in there, if you were driving by, you probably wouldn't be able to read it, because the letters would probably only be about 3 inches high. We can work it out. I mean, we'll take a look at it.
Marty Wiley, my question is this is running, the sign, readable side is running parallel to Concord?
No, perpendicular.
Okay, so then you would be reading the message from both sides, and so on your printout, that changes to the other side also.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, Gordon. Speaking from an architectural standpoint, the thing I like about that sign is it's so crisp and clear, because if those signs are moving, the more written stuff that's permanently on there, we're going to lose part of the message. So I go along with Lloyd's theory, and I don't mean at all to demean Cindy stuff, because I love what they're doing. But I think that, like, when it's time for registration for preschool, especially in different times, we can really focus on that. And I actually think it'll get more attention than people just look at it every day and just doesn't absorb. So like in the spring and the fall registration, but then also all year long, have it on there periodically. But at the times that it's really focusing on preschool, let's get it out there in big lights.
Are you saying that you want it?
I'd like it.
You'd like to see it permanently on?
No, not at all. I'd like.
Oh, okay.
I'm sorry. I like it just how you have it. But I'm just saying when at the time that it's real critical for Cindy is to really focus on the electronic portion. I just think the sign is so crisp and clear and so easily to read, because so many of these signs when you're going by, and they're flickering and flickering, you don't see everything that's going on. And that's what I like about the crispness of it, personally.
Well, I think the idea of the sign is it works with the leadership goal to increase membership. We have a lot of community expansion going on, and I think a lot of cars drive by here. I asked somebody, or I think George was involved, that asked a couple of churches what was the value in their sign by putting it up, and they saw a significant increase in membership. I think one of the problems we have with our church is that we sit so far off the road, people drive by and they don't see it. You know, we're not very well focused. If we were up close to the road, people would see a lot more. But they just go ahead and drive on by. I think this sign will make them aware that not only are we a church, but we have a lot of other activities. You know, the Hearts and Hands certainly is one of them. AA meets here, we can advertise that. We can advertise GED meets here. There's a lot of programs that we have. I don't think our community is aware of all the things that this church does. And I think this gives us an opportunity to show them what we can do. So, yes, Lois Jackson has a question. I hope if you can contribute, we'd appreciate it. Like I said, we're a little over 15,000. I know there's some commitments out there yet, but we'd like to raise the entire amount so we can get moving on it and get it started.
Jim, I'm just wondering, what's under the bell? I can't tell what that is. Is it a solid piece of concrete or something under the bell?
Aluminum. So yeah, so it's aluminum. You mean where the address is? Where the 815 is?
Under the bell itself, I can't see from here.
It's air. The bell is just sitting.
That's just sky.
Oh, I see, 815. Okay, I couldn't see it. Thank you.
Marty Wiley.
This is another thought too, and I don't think this, I
Don't think this would ever happen, but as we're talking things through, I'm thinking things can change in years to come, and Hearts and Hands may find that they do not have the population, or the state law changes and public education starts educating 2-year-olds, or things like that that are more permanent. So having it something that is current on signage may be better than something that could change. First Congregational will probably, hopefully, be here forever. Maybe Hearts and Hands would change to something else. I don't know.
Anything else? Anybody? If you'd like to make a contribution.
I was just going to say that just in from the treasurer, we are at 16,120 right now that has come in so far.
That's good.
Yeah. I would like to say something about being a new member of this church. Coming past the sign, we drove past here 100 times. Never joined the church. But our #1 sales staff in this whole church is right here. We walked in that door. The minute we walked in that door, we were sold on this church. We felt like we were so welcome and everything. So another part of this sign, get them from the road into the church. Once they're in the church, you guys got them.
If you'd like to contribute, you can contribute to the church. Just write a memo on your check or whatever saying sign project. If there's nothing else, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Jim. Thank you, Dale. Getting close to time to wrap up, kids. It's been a pretty long meeting. I think a good meeting. We've covered a lot of items, a lot of information. Are there any other groups that wish to present reports to the congregation at this time? Good. I don't see any. Thank you to everyone serving on a ministry, committee, project group, or who's serving our church capacity in any other capacity. I'd like to give anybody an opportunity to speak if they haven't done so, or something additional they'd like to cover. That's good. Unless anyone has any additional items to discuss, I will now entertain a motion and a second to adjourn. Is there a motion? I've got Bill Jones, motion, second. Way in the back, Cheryl Hoff. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Let's have a big amen. Amen. Go home. Thank you.
Aye.